Okay, so good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Welcome to all of you, and thank you so much, everyone, for joining the University of Oxford.
Hi.
Hey.
Can you see me?
Yes. Yeah, perfect. Side Business School information event. So I think we have everyone from the Alumni Panel now joining us. Okay. So yeah, we are really delighted to see a great number of you joining us and hope that you are all well. My name is Sarah Nima. I am a recruitment manager here at Side Business School and will be chairing today's session. To start proceedings, I'm going to now show you a brief video which will provide you with an introduction to the business school.
The world changes. The world challenges. It's never been so open. It's never built so many walls. This is a new age, an age of outrage. When trust in institutions falls, the world looks to business to solve its greatest problems. At Side Business School, we harness the world's most diverse set of minds for the answers. We don't just teach people about business and economics. We teach people how to think, how to solve problems, how to adapt to an ever-changing world. A wealth of perspectives from countries and cultures across the globe, from disciplines across the university. An ideas lab that acts as an incubator to solve the most difficult questions. Access to the world's most influential thinkers and prominent business leaders. A world-leading business school, embedded in the world's greatest university, tackling the world's greatest issues. When the world challenges, Oxford answers.
Okay, great. So during the course of this presentation, I'm going to provide you with a brief introduction to the school and the team, and then talk through our portfolio of executive diplomas. In particular, I will discuss the learning, network, and experience that students are provided with at our school. The session should last up to an hour, and at the close, we will aim to cover the questions which many of you have already submitted to us. If we do not get the chance to cover your specific question, or have further questions after today, then please feel free to reach out to the recruitment team. We would be very happy to set up a call or a virtual meeting with you. So yeah, next slide, please. Perfect. So as you know, we are joined today by 4 Oxford Diploma alumni. We are grateful for your time and willingness to contribute to this discussion. I'm sure that the attendees with us will really value your insights and personal experiences. So could I please ask that you briefly introduce yourself in the order which you are listed on the screen, starting with Jim.
Hi, I'm Jim Landucci-Harmy. I run a small accountancy practice. I've been running it since 2003. I specialise in risk and crisis management. So the last year I've been quite busy, which so it's kind of interesting. So my firm is called Landucci-Harmy & Co. I don't think anybody would have heard of it. And I've done the Diploma in Financial Strategy in the class of 2019.
Fantastic, thank you. Dan?
Thanks a lot. So when I joined the Diploma of Global Business in 2018, my company had just sold to a publicly listed company on the New York Stock Exchange. So that was the case study that I used on how to transition from a private company into being owned by publicly listed. And it was a great experience, and I learned a lot from my colleagues' cohort and the content that was provided over the period of the Diploma in Global Business.
Fantastic, thank you. And now Rashmi.
Hi, it's great to be here. I'm sorry I'm struggling with my internet, so if there's an echo, I do apologize. My name is Rashmi Bhaskar Mukherjee, and I work for TCS, Tata Consulting Services, based out of London. I manage their HR strategy and transformation for the UK and Europe. The course that I undertook was organizational leadership, and I have to say I'm richer for it. So thank you.
Thank you, Rashmi. And now Peace.
Sure. Hello, everyone. I'm Peace Annie. I'm based in London. I work for Fidelity, which is a global investment management company. I was part of the 2019 cohorts in a Diploma of Strategy and Innovation. And in terms of my role, I'm a senior manager and I support general counsel in matters relating to corporate governance. So that is sort of the compliance, legal functions for Fidelity. And it's been a great experience, and I know we'll probably come onto it, on the panel. But in terms of, just the value add from this program and just how I continue to benefit, from that program in terms of my career trajectory and, the opportunities that continue to be presented to me. So thank you.
That's wonderful. Thank you for your introductions. I will turn to the alumni panel for their inputs at various points as we move forward. Next slide, please. So now I would also like to introduce you to a number of my colleagues at Oxford who work within the Diplomas team. Our roles cover the recruitment, marketing and admissions, and applicants for our programs will deal with a number of us. Could I ask the team to introduce themselves and the diploma they work on? So let's start with Joe Nicholson.
Hello everybody, my name's Joe Nicholson. I work primarily on the Diploma in Strategy and Innovation and also work on the Diploma in AI for Business with my colleague Kate.
Hello, my name is Kate. I work primarily to recruit for the Diploma in Global Business and have also just begun to work with Joe recruiting for the Diploma in Artificial Intelligence for Business.
Hi everyone, I'm Laura Loudon and I work on the Diploma in Organisational Leadership and also the Diploma in Financial Strategy.
Okay, well, I introduced myself, but my name is Sarah Nima. I oversee recruitment for the Diploma in Financial Strategy.
Good morning, my name is Kevin Young and I oversee recruitment for organisational leadership working with Laura Loudon.
And finally, hi all, I'm Alison Hill and I'm the marketing manager for the 5 Oxford Executive Diplomas.
Perfect, thank you. So so next up, I also would like to introduce you to Joanne, Emma and Abby from the admissions team. They aren't part of the session today, but if you apply for a diploma, then you will certainly be in contact with at least one of them. The role of the admissions team is to handle applications as they come through. Next slide, please. Okay, so before I talk further about Side Business School, I must really start with the University of Oxford, which is central to our being. The university was founded over 800 years ago and includes 39 colleges and over 100 academic departments. There are approximately 24,000 students at the university across the undergraduate and graduate community. The business schools tie to the university is incredibly strong, and perhaps one of our greatest assets. We are not a standalone institute, but are absolutely embedded in the Oxford ecosystem, and everything we do and our students do is connected to the university. So if you are considering programs that if you are considering programs at other institutes, then we would like to really emphasize the value of this relationship we facilitate to the university. The business school itself was founded in 1996 and is part of the social sciences division. The building that you can see on the right picture was built in 2001 and is the core site for teaching on the diplomas and other programs, and have been extended since as well. Overall, the business school is a young, entrepreneurial and innovative institute. Next slide, please. Okay, so as well as being a center of excellence for teaching, the school prides itself on the strength, depth and breadth of academic research we publish. Through research, our community identifies the most important and interesting challenges facing the business world, attempts to make sense of them, and proposes innovative, evidence-based ways to tackle them. The Oxford side research community provides the fresh ideas, the novel perspectives and intellectual power to enable the school and its students to have an impact. Our teaching is underpinned by this research. Some of the school's core research themes includes finance, entrepreneurship, healthcare, major program management, sustainability, responsible business, social impact, and more. Next slide, please. So this is the Foundry, which was founded by Said Business School in 2017. It's an entrepreneurship center that incubates startups within the university. It's accessible to students on diplomas, as well as all students at the university and its alumni. The mission of the Foundry is to build a new generation of businesses and ethical leaders, or nurture more ethical leaders who put people and the environment first. Pictured here is Tim Cook, Apple CEO, in conversation with our Dean Peter Tufano at the Foundry. So this is basically just an example of one of the added value outside of your immediate studies that the university can offer. Next slide, please. So the business school, at the business school, we offer educational programs through a number of different formats. The executive diplomas, which you are considering, fall under the part-time qualifications. It overlaps slightly with executive education. Next slide, please. Thank you. So in total, we offer 5 executive diplomas. I can imagine that some of you here today, because you might already have an idea of which diploma you would like to apply for, but equally, I realize that some of you are still yet to determine this and are here today because you are seeking more information on the portfolio. So just a brief introduction to the diplomas. The Diploma in Financial Strategy is primarily for finance professionals looking to elevate themselves to a more strategic financial position, such as CFO roles or beyond. It equips them with the required strategic skills, and it's really good fit for people who are trying to achieve that. We also have professionals joining this program who don't have finance background, but who are looking to get a deep dive into corporate finance and bridge that gap within their skill set. The Diploma in Global Business is for people who are operating in an international environment or looking to do so. It gives them a practical approach to global business management. The Diploma in Organizational Leadership looks at strategy, change, your leadership style within an organization, it works really well in many different contexts. The Diploma in Strategy and Innovation looks at strategy, implementing strategy, being innovative and entrepreneurial in new or disrupted environments, as well as established businesses. This year, we launched the Diploma in Artificial Intelligence for Business, which is about the impact of AI and learning how to lead in the development, implementation, and running of AI systems. Next slide, please. So typically, the class size on each diploma is between 30 to 68 students, depends on the diploma you choose to study. In terms of study time, we say or recommend that students on the diplomas spend a minimum of 6 hours per week. This is consistent throughout the year, and of course, some individuals spend more than this. On completion of each diploma, there is a graduation ceremony. If you join a diploma in 2021, you will graduate sometime around October, November 2022. So graduation ceremonies for all students at Oxford are held at the Sheldonian Theatre. At the moment, students on the diplomas are assessed by 3 open book online exams. Completion of the exams is an integral part of the experience and the qualification. And in addition to this, you will also need to undertake a written assignment of 6,000 words at the end. So assessments at Oxford is an important part of the process. We are ultimately a rigorous academic institution. Moreover, though, this process of exams and an assignment help to ensure that you learn in a deep but broad way within the condensed timeframes of part-time study. So on successful completion, diploma students are awarded with a postgraduate qualification from the University of Oxford Said Business School. These diplomas are taught at master's level, so the rigor style level of assessment is similar to a master's degree or similar to our Executive Mba, but they are not full masters. So, and also the content for our diplomas is adapted from our Executive Mba program. Compared to an Executive Mba, diplomas are shorter and more specialized in specific areas. Diplomas work really well for students who want to study, but are perhaps time and travel pressured and are seeking a deep dive focus on specific areas. So that's what they are essentially. Next slide, please. So that will lead us nicely to the pathway to the Executive Mba. So if you want to take your diploma further, then it also offers a pathway onto our Executive Mba. So diploma participants who successfully apply for an Oxford Executive Mba receive a fee reduction equal to 60% of their diploma program fee, as well as 4 module exemptions upon successful completion of all 4 diploma assessments. So this way, the pathway will reduce the intensity of your executive diploma studies. So you have, for example, to do 12 modules instead of 16. Note, however, that there is no automatic right to transfer to the Oxford Executive Mba program, and diploma students and alumni are still required to submit a new application. Next slide, please. So traditionally, this is what a diploma module in Oxford would look like. Wednesday through to Saturday, students would be provided with 4 days of learning per module, and the teaching components are combined with networking and social activities. Next slide, please. Okay. Obviously, this format of in-person teaching is complicated under the current situation. Therefore, we have also utilized virtual teaching on the current diplomas. On this format, which you can see on the screen, the teaching is spread over 5 days instead of 4, and accommodated in time zones that best fits as many students as possible and reduces screen fatigue. We are also integrating opportunities of networking, but these are held virtually. Next slide, please. Okay, so now I would like to hand you over to our panel to discuss how their experience of the learning on their diplomas, and ask them to talk around one of the words on screen. So shall we start with Dan? Dan, would you like to pick a word and just tell us a little bit more around it? How was your Oxford learning experience?
Sure, I'll choose relevance. For me, that was the big thing that I took away from the whole experience, is how relevant what I was doing in my industry, but how relevant the teaching was to me, and also how relevant the different industries in the global business, the different cohort members, how relevant their business was to mine. I had a cohort that consisted of a baroness, Amazon, people from government, non-for-profit, people from CEOs of large industry, but everybody had the same relevant goal, depending on, it didn't matter which direction they came from. And I think that was the biggest thing that I took away from it all, is that the cohort was an integral part of my experience, but also the learning and the content that was delivered by Saeed, how it all came together. So that was really, really my top point, is how relevant it all is when you finish your diploma.
Fantastic, thank you. Let's move to Rashmi, who studied the Diploma in Organizational Leadership.
Yes, so do you mind if I cheat and touch on relevance as well? And a couple of, okay, so I'm really grateful that I have to say I'm very biased towards the program that I went in for, which was organizational leadership. I was looking for a program that, having worked for a good 25 years, brought me up to speed with the complex issues of organizational leadership, but also made me aware of my own style of leadership. I was looking for a program that went beyond theory, and I have to say, the organizational leadership program had elements of everything. I mean, it brought together theory, it brought together elements of business, technology, and strategy. We touched upon not just global politics, but also the impact on organizational decisions based on how leaders think. Coming to the format, I think what I also loved about the program was how well paced the program was, and how they had sort of gradually moved, from talking about your own style of leadership versus a strategic mindset, brought together elements of how markets were constructed, institutional complexity, and every model. So the strategic leader, strategic mindset, every model sort of provided you with strategies that would help you maneuver ambiguity. And I have to say, I think just after we finished the course, the pandemic came along, and I loved the fact that we had, we sort of done simulation exercises wherein you're put into ambiguous situations, and how do you as a leader sort of come out of those situations. So, and last but not the least, I think my most important takeaway was to appreciate the context of individuals and organizations. And with a faculty like Professor Sue Dobson, who's also the Deputy Dean, Mark Ventresca, Tim Morris, they're all sort of, thinkers and leaders globally in their areas of work. And it was quite humbling to see how they sort of spent time with you to understand your context as a leader, the industry that you came from and the organizations that you came from. And it's really interesting that I think about 80% of I think we were from 60 different countries, 15 different industries. We had ministers, we had judges, we had people from the corporate world, social sector. It was amazing how the context of discussions or the level of analysis and the depth that every case study sort of brought in was just so refreshing. So so that would be my experience with the course.
Fantastic. Thank you, Rashmi. Peace. Would you over to you? Would you like to also tell us a little bit more around your Oxford learning?
Sure. And similar to my previous colleagues that have come up, for me, I'll probably touch on format and relevance. Format for me was quite key, because having quite a big role at work, one of my concerns with doing a program like this was whether I could fit it into my day-to-day, because I'm also a mom. I have children. So for me, the format worked quite seamlessly, in a sense that I could plan ahead and take a long weekend off every quarter or so to go to the beautiful town of Oxford and get immersed in all that history and that legacy, and which is all part of the whole Oxford experience, which I think never really leaves you. And I think what really also contributes to that is when we talk about the relevance, I said there's different dimensions of relevance. There is the aspect of the course content, which I think is quite timeless, continues to be relevant even till today, and will be in the years to come. But then also it's the standard of the cohort. So as my colleagues have touched on, you get such a broad range of people. Being someone who has mostly worked in the financial services sector, and I'm surrounded by sort of finance type people, it's quite good to get that exposure to people from CEOs of different industry sectors, to people who work for the office of the president, for example. We had some ex-Silicon Valley type superstars. I think the one thing that really, on this point of relevance, that really challenged me personally, because I would say when I joined the program, I was at a stage in my career where I'd probably say I'm sort of middle management to senior management. But then there were people on this program, by any standards, I would say are made people. I mean, when I say made, they're really successful. And in my mind, I thought if I had half your success, I'm not sure if I'd be seeking out this program. So it was interesting to speak to people who have made it. I mean, really, made it. And I'm like, so what is your motivation for being on this program? And it's not so much, the modesty in the answer, but it's just the fact that no matter where you think you are in your career or success in life, there's always so much you can learn, from the program and the people around you. So there's this particular person who I think is so uber successful in my particular cohort, and his answer was very humbling. He said, well, sometimes I find that this is really useful because it helps me to challenge some of my thinking, and also is the exposure to that cohort of people. It's like, where am I going to go to have access to this pool of talent that Oxford has managed to pull together? So again, those are all part of the things about the program that continue for me to pay dividends. I'm not sure if I've gone over time, but you get the gist of what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, no, absolutely. No, that's great to hear. Thank you very much. Okay, and now we'll move to Jim.
Oh, well, I think I'll just choose the topics that people haven't chosen. So work-life balance and faculty. So the work-life balance, I think the program is sort of very intense, but you can actually combine it with your work quite easily. I used to do my studying on the commute to London, but with the COVID, that's no longer applicable, I suppose. But also as a group, we formed study groups. So there were study groups in London, there were study groups in Dubai, there were study groups in all the different countries. I even think there's a little group in America, I think. So, and I think as a as a group, we kind of gelled, and we still keep in contact. Luckily, like one of the class members was the FD for Coca-Cola in China, and she actually sort of shared her experience about what was going to happen in COVID. So for me, it was sort of very useful, and it also helped the other classmates. And we're still very close. We were a class of about 50 in sort of a number of different countries. On the faculty, the teachers or lecturers are very good. And it's also you get introduced to other lecturers. I'm doing a doctorate in business administration at another university, and one of the associate professors at Said is acting as an academic advisor to me. So I'm still sort of keeping in contact. So that's it, really.
Yeah, wow, that's wonderful. Thank you very much, Jim, and everyone. Okay, so now next slide, please. Okay, so that again will lead us nicely to this slide here. So whilst so much of our lives are moving digitally, we cannot understate the value of networking and in connections that students on the diplomas are involved with. These connections and interactions move beyond your immediate class and cohort, and the university enables you to develop a community of peers across different subjects, ages, geographies, and disciplines. Next slide, please. So this is what a typical diploma class looks like in terms of students. There are obviously variations across each of the diplomas, but the numbers on screen should give you an overview on the class you should expect to be part of. Students on the diplomas are also incredibly diverse geographically. We typically have about 30 nationalities represented in each cohort. Also, beyond nationality, students on the diplomas also come from a wide range of working countries. They are embedded within their communities. This variation helps to provide a deep mix of work experiences and a range of global insights to the challenges students are presented with in the classrooms. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, so back to our panel now. I would like to invite each of you to discuss more around the community, the Oxford community that you became part of. So let's start this time with Rashmi.
Perfect. So I would let me start with, let's just say, classmates. And I have to say, we've obviously all formed deep friendships, but I'd like to just, provide you with an example, of how you form, some of these bonds are lifelong bonds. So obviously, I'm into strategy consulting. The context of organizations has obviously changed drastically. Recently, I was working with a European reassurance client, who wanted us to advise them on how the context of the industry has changed. Not something I was the most familiar with, but I had access to some of my classmates who were, within the industry. Some of them were CEOs and some of them were C-suite, and they were fully aware that I had, I had to be well informed of the context of the industry. And we all sort of jumped onto a call overnight, and they helped fill me in terms of, what was the context of the industry and how I could sort of step into their shoes so I could be relevant to my clients. So, that is more from a professional perspective, but from a personal perspective, like Peace, I'm a mum, right? And there have been times when I've had to leave my little boy, and we've had nanny issues, but we've had we've had a lot of empathy in the groups, wherein people pick up assignments for you, make quick notes for you. And that sort of humanizes the educational experience, right? I mean, yes, we're all, say mid to senior level leaders in the industry, but we're also mums. We're also, we're also students. So you wear multiple hats. And I think that sort of creates strong bonds, but that also breaks barriers. I think it humanizes the entire experience, the learning experience. So you see people and your classmates more as individuals and not just as professionals. So to me, I think that has been the beauty of, studying at Oxford. You learn from each other. So yeah.
That's really great. Thank you, Rashmi. We'll move to Peace. I think you're still, yeah.
Can you hear me? Okay.
Yes.
So I think with mine, overwhelmingly, it's probably going to go back to, I guess, the classmates, and the combination of course, the rich history of the school, which is the backdrop, of that. So for me, I found that the opportunity to interact, to really challenge, I guess, not just where I was in terms of, in my career journey to date, but also seeing, mixing with people who are either where you want to be, or at least can connect you to, where you want to be. So it's that experience of, collaborating and having your mind and your horizons stretched and broadened by mixing with people who have come from different walks of life. So the diversity in the program, not just diversity in geography, but also in industry sectors, in experiences, but also there is something about the people that makes them really approachable. And I remember just one of the first experience I had, and I remember I mentioned it, was just how everyone was almost competing to be nice. Like everybody was, really nice and helpful and just sharing ideas, collaborating in a very open and transparent, just even, the way people came together to support in the learning and help to reinforce the learning. So I think the beauty of having, the diversity in the cohort is someone's always going to have a perspective and an angle that you hadn't thought of. So that was really good in terms of that cross-sharing, cross-learning, and really cross-fertilization of the mind. So for me, that's been priceless. And it means that I've been able to take that away back to work almost in real time. And it's as if I grew up overnight, in the sense that my sense of, confidence and credibility changed, that I could engage at very senior levels, speaking with the head of strategy in my organization. And I actually understood what he was saying, and he understood what I was saying, and I was able to add value at that very, senior top level of the organization that I didn't have access to otherwise, because I've been mixing with CEOs and, people at that level, that making that transition when I went back to work was, somewhat seamless. So for me, that has, been, very valuable experience for me.
Fantastic, Peace. Thank you very much. Thank you. Jim.
Well, I think I'll choose college, because our class, we became associate members of St. Hugh's College, and I think by becoming a member of a college, you seem to be more integrated into the experience. Like St. Hugh's was founded as an all females college. It had the sort of the suffragettes, so you had all the sort of the history, and then also we used to go to the college dinners. The last dinner we went to Trinity College, which was sort of very interesting, because that was an all males college. So, and then that recently had admitted women. So it was kind of, and when we left, we became alumni members of the college. So, so that's it really.
Yeah, no, fantastic. I still remember that din as well. Yeah. Okay, fantastic. Well, now we're moving to Dan.
Thanks a lot. I'm going to touch on all 4 of these, but I'll keep it brief. The friendships were amazing. The first day we all met at the pub, and it felt like the first day of school all over again. We've all been our first day of school or first day of work, but it was nerve-wracking. You had to put your best foot forward, and what we found as soon as you stepped in, everybody was there for the first time. Nobody knew anybody else. Everybody was there together, and it helped build those bonds. And I think, as my colleagues have said before, your classmates, they're CEOs, they're heads of state, they've got some amazing portfolios and resumes, but they're only partway on their journey. So joining with them now, you're actually joining them on their journey. One of my colleagues, he was the head of the Law Council of New South Wales of Australia, and he's now promoted to the Law Council of, he was head of Law Council of New South Wales, and now he's promoted to the Law Council of Australia. So by meeting him partway through his journey and having that friendship, he now sits in Canberra, Australia, ahead of all of the law and lawyers of Australia, which is an amazing insight to be a part of. So you're not just meeting somebody, you're a part of that journey. And with the school, it does that. It allows people from different industries to feel on the same playing field. Everyone's on that same level. Everybody accepts each other, whether you're from industry, from social, from government. You're all there leaning on each other for different reasons. They're calling each other. Should I take this opportunity? Should I be a part of it? What do you think? It's really exciting. And I think that's what those college experiences do as well. You go to these dinners at these beautiful Harry Potter style dining rooms, and you're all chit-chatting, and these are friendships that last forever. So for me, this was such an exciting part of the journey.
Yeah, well, wonderful. Thank you, Dan. Okay, so to the next slide, please. Okay, so on the screen here are what we would see as the main goals of your Oxford experience. So first, to challenge your thinking, and Oxford is known of its critical thinking and analysis. We look at these diplomas as a way to apply models and frameworks. They provide academic content, practical knowledge, which you can apply immediately in practice, something that you can, from the first module, find helpful and be able to apply back to your organization or your role. We hope these diplomas enhance and elevate your career prospects within your sector, or if you are looking to make a career shift, or even to change sectors. And we also hope these studies can enable you join our open and welcoming Oxford community, like you just heard from our panel. So next slide, please. So now, before we go to admissions and Q&A, I would like to go back to our panel just to share any more thoughts around the programs and see if there is anything else you would like to add. So actually, we have received quite a few questions from the audience asking about the impact the Oxford experience had on your career. So it would be great also if you can share a bit more around that. So how enjoyable it was it worth it? Did you have to make any sacrifices? So let's start this time with Peace.
Sure, thank you. So in terms of the experience and its impact on my career, I'd say it's extremely positive from the get-go, in the sense that there's something about being, as part of that classroom and being exposed to these different frameworks. Yes, there's an element of theory to it, but also just going through these case studies where they're quite inspiring in terms of what people have achieved. That really inspires. It almost sets something alight in you that challenges you to want to do more and achieve more. And of course, learning the frameworks and learning, I want to say the language means that you're able to engage at a level that you perhaps haven't before. So for me, it's been impactful, very impactful, in the sense that I did my final integrative assignment on my company, and the timing was, so perfect, in the sense that we were coming through as a change of CEO, and the company was having to communicate its 2030 strategy, and being able to take what I've applied and engage with very senior members of my organization to talk through, a couple of scenarios and what we're trying to do with the strategy in terms of where the company was in its sort of history, and how do we build on that competitive advantage by becoming more innovative as we go into the future, as we transition into this, what we call the fourth industrial revolution, that's driven by AI. But being able to use the content real time meant I could add very credible value in my organization, to the extent that I've been, earmarked for very big projects for my organization. But not just that, there's other things I'm starting to do personally with some of my cohorts, where we're coming up with, a consulting business type of idea, just based on what we've learned. So it's really what you want to take out of it. I'll say, there's so much potential and limits, and there's so much potential from the program, and whether you want to take it back to your organization, or perhaps you want to, take a leap of faith into something different in your career or in your entrepreneurship pursuit. So for me, it's been very impactful. Thank you.
Thank you, Peace. Thanks. Jim.
Well, I think I'll choose enjoyable. I enjoyed the experience. I enjoyed the people. I enjoyed the food, the drink, and the entertainment. And I'm still enjoying it. I'm still in contact with my classmates. So I would say I'd recommend it.
Fantastic. That's great to hear. Thank you, Jim. How about you, Dan?
Thank you. I think I'm going to take a group of the 4 topics again. I feel now, after completing, that I'm 100% a part of the University of Oxford community. I think that's, you're always trying to understand, and you see how impactful that is on people's lives. For me, I always wanted my son to attend Oxford, and somebody said to me, well, why do you have to wait that long? If you would like to do that yourself, why don't you apply? And that was something that I didn't really even think about until this opportunity came up. So for me now, I can sit with my friends and colleagues who did their undergraduate at Oxford, and we can talk about the same pubs, and we can talk about the university dinners. We can talk about the colleges and Don't Walk on the Grass at Jesus. And these are things that have really given me that same playing field to somebody who did their undergraduate at Oxford as well. So for me, I found it enjoyable because of that, and definitely worth it. That gave me that opportunity later in life.
That's wonderful, Dan. Thank you very much. How about you, Rashmi?
Well, I'm going to be like Dan and sort of touch on a little bit of everything. First of all, I just have to say that I came into Oxford thinking that I'll brush up what I already know. And I have to say, it's been humbling at so many levels. I realized that I've unlearned everything that I knew in a good way. And I think whatever I studied sort of and learned, and the insights and friendships that I gained sort of stood the test of time. Like I said, the pandemic came along, and one of the things that I realized when I was working with my organization, with the family, when we were going through the impacts of COVID, both personally and professionally, that there are strategies, and but I think there's nothing like insights that Oxford provides you. There's nothing like real life experiences that you share with the cohort. And one of the things I remember dashing off to writing a note to my mother, who was a bit distressed about me leaving a young child behind to study, was that no matter what life sort of throws at you as a professional or as personally, when the world challenges, you may not have all the answers, but you would have frameworks, you would have case studies, you would have experiences that you've gained and conversations that you've had with your professors that would somehow point you in the right direction. And I have to say that is one of the most powerful things that I've gained from Oxford. So that's one. In terms of sacrifices, it's not easy to leave a young child behind when you're going off to study, but I have to say we're all richer for it as a family. I think it's great for a child to know that learning does not stop for an adult, right? It's also good for a child to know that what got you here yesterday will not get you there tomorrow, right? It's also very important for my son to know that that I've got classmates that I learn from, I mess around with. And I've wear multiple hats, and it's very clear for me to see that, but it's also very clear for the family. It's very clear for the people that I work with. So from a sacrifices perspective, I have to say I am so much richer for everything that I've done. Is it worth it? Yes. I have to say this is really interesting. Anyone who attends the organization leadership, at least I think out of a batch of 60, you have at least 12 to 15 who quit their jobs after the first module. I think one of the stresses, I think one of the interesting things is there's so much stressing, in terms of soul searching and your own purpose. There's the corporate purpose, but there's also what is your purpose as a leader? What is it that you're hoping to achieve? So I think about 12 or 15 of us was not being true to themselves. And I think that really is the power of the program. Having said that, coming to impact, I think a lot of us went back to do what we were doing, the same things, but we ensured we had purpose at the center of everything we did. So if some of us were working in technology, we went back to look at how do we look at humane technologies now, right? How do we, if there's a strategy, for example, how do you tune it to the context of the individual, not just the organization, not just the C-suite, but the last man standing, because that's why all change fails, because you're not able to relate. So I think from an impact perspective, you were very mindful of what, every time you went back to the drawing board. And was it enjoyable? It absolutely was. I think the pubs are a great leveler, after a drink, or, you drop your guards and you just realize that you're all people at the end of the day. So I have to say, I am just so grateful for this opportunity. I'm also very grateful that I wasn't, just a student in the program. I mean, half the people that you see sitting here, like Kevin and, Joe is here and Sarah. I think we've all, Kate, I think we've reached out to them when we've needed stuff, and you're not just a student, it's the faculty comes together if you have a problem, or if they have to sort of, help you adjust to a schedule. So I'm pretty sure I'll probably come back in a year or two, so thank you. That's just me.
You're very, very welcome, Rashmi. Thanks very much. And thanks to our panel. Next slide, please. Okay, so now you've heard from our wonderful panel. So in order to apply for a diploma We basically require applicants to have at least 5 years of relevant experience and 2 professional references. Applicants also need to answer 2 essay questions as part of the admissions process. The first of these is around challenges they are currently faced with, and the second of these is around their main professional achievements. Furthermore, applicants need to submit a CV and transcripts from their previous qualifications. If English is not your first language, but if you have studied a degree in English, or if you use it as the main language of communication in your workplace, then you might be eligible for a waiver. Okay, next slide. Thank you. So we have 3 scholarships per diploma for our female candidates. 1 scholarship covers 50% of the program fee, and 2 more scholarships providing £5,000 towards the program fee. To apply for these, you need to submit an extra essay of about 400 words detailing how you meet the selection criteria, which is available on our website. Unfortunately, there are no other scholarships. Next slide, please. Okay, so the next application deadline for all diplomas is Monday, 19th of October. This is also the deadline to apply for the women's scholarships. With the exception of the Diploma in AI for Business, the women's scholarship deadline for that is Monday, 9th of November. The final deadline to apply for a diploma is Monday, 7th of December. We strongly encourage candidates to apply by the October deadline to best secure their place. The diploma fees is £27,000, and it takes us at the moment around 2 to 4 weeks to provide applicants with a decision on their application. Next slide, please. Thank you. So yeah, as next steps, please contact us. The recruitment team would be very happy to help, or you can upload your CV on our website, and we would be very happy also to give you some feedback on your suitability for your chosen diploma, or feel free to start an application directly on our website. I just want to thank our wonderful panel for joining us today, for your generous support and insights. Please feel free to stay on while we answer some recruitment questions. Otherwise, please also feel free to leave this session, and thanks so much again for joining us today and your contribution.
Thanks for the opportunity.
You're very welcome. Thank you, Dan.
Thank you.
Thank you, Peace. Appreciate it. Thanks. Okay, so thanks again for your questions. We will do our best to answer as many as we can. So my colleague Kate Richards now will answer some of these for you. Kate, over to you.
Thank you. Sarah touched on this question as part of her presentation, but it is one that we hear quite a lot, and so it's always worth just making it as clear as we can. And that is around the difference between a postgraduate diploma and a master's degree. The easiest way to describe that difference really is that the postgraduate diploma is a shorter qualification than a master's degree, but at the same academic level. So all of the teaching that you receive as part of kind of any of the postgraduate diplomas will be at master's level, and you will be assessed at master's level, and kind of as Sarah touched on again, the content sort of the programs is extrapolated from the Oxford Executive Mba, and so again that's kind of where the teaching and both the assessment kind of sit at, so I hope that's kind of a clear sort of description of what the difference is. You won't leave with a master's degree, but you will leave with a master's level postgraduate qualification from the University of Oxford. And then we also had a couple of questions around the assessments that take place as part of the diplomas. So for each of the diplomas, there are 4 assessments, kind of one per each of the 4 modules that you take. The first 3 of the modules, they're assessed via an exam. Those exams are generally case study based and consist of a series of questions that will ask you to apply your learning from the module that you've just completed to the case study that you receive. And then your final assignment then is an extended written assignment, which is about 6,000 words. And that is kind of the point at which you really pull together all of your learning across the programme to put that together sort of in terms of your own professional context, to put together something kind of approaching a case study of your own, so that again you're able to apply your learning from across the programme to your professional situation and to set out how you would address kind of a challenge or a project that you're working with. If anybody has any further questions on either of those topics, please don't hesitate to get in touch after the session. But for now, I will pass over to my colleague, Joe.
Great, thank you, Kate. So the questions that I've been, that I will answer, the first one is around which programme would be most suitable for somebody who's looking to become a strategy leader, but also a business leader. And I think the simple answer to this is that all the diplomas look at strategy and business, but really it depends on your own context, the environment you work in, and really what you're looking to get from the programme. So it's really worth studying and researching each of the diplomas to see which one is best aligned with your experience, your skill set, but maybe also your gaps in your knowledge and the areas that you're looking to develop. And I'd suggest from this point really reaching out to the relevant recruitment manager to set up a call and to discuss it further in person as kind of the next point of action. The next question is around how the online programs we have here at Oxford might kind of have some similarities with the diplomas. The answer is it's been quite useful actually. We've had the opportunity to speak to alumni from these diplomas who are now involved with the delivery of the online programs. And really the online programs are kind of thinner in terms of the content and the depth that you look at the subjects in. They're designed to be actionable, but are quite different to the diploma in terms of how they're delivered, the level of interactions and engagement that you have with the faculty, with the peers that you're learning with as well. And really in terms of how you're held accountable and how you learn the material and get to grips with them. Throughout the programme, throughout the diploma, you'll have sustained engagement with faculty, you'll have discourse, intellectual debate around the subjects, and you really go into the case studies, the actual material in a lot more detail than you would find on the online programmes. So those are my questions. So I think I'm now handing over to Laura.
Thanks very much. We had a couple of questions around tuition fee payment. So just to very quickly run through that. The standard structure for all of the diplomas is that we ask you to pay a 15% deposit within 30 days of receiving your offer, and then to pay the remaining 85% balance before you start the programme. In exceptional circumstances, you may be able to split the payments further. If that is something that you need to do, we advise you to speak to our admissions team at offer stage, and they will be able to help and advise you further. So that's it from me, and handing over to Kevin, I believe.
Thank you, Laura. Am I muted? Yeah. So the question I'm addressing is from someone who asked, can the Oxford diplomas enable mature students in their career shifts? And I was looking at this, and I think the fair response to that is it depends, as we've heard, where you are in your career. This could benefit somebody at an early stage of their career, mid-career, or as we heard from Dan, I think, C-suite level. It's a continuous learning process. So the answer is yes, but it doesn't have to be just mature students. The allied point is that if I was to draw together all the examples given, it's contextual. So whether you're a financial person, a leader, looking at working at a diplomatic level, global business, there is a context for you. And as Joe has said, have a look at which diploma most suits you and have a word with us. I think that's very important. Whichever diploma you choose, you'll get high caliber tuition and you get this shared experience. And I think in terms of careers moving forward, whether you stay in your organization or, as Peace said, I think you could springboard off and do something different. There is something to take away. It gives you more breadth, it gives you an international outlook, it's educationally stimulating, it inspires you, and you end up with a wonderful community of brothers and sisters that you can consult. So the wrapper I would put around it is that it broadens you, whether you take any of these diplomas. And I've not heard yet a student who's completed the program say anything different to that. And with that, I'll pass on to Andy Poole.
Great, thanks, Kevin. So I had a couple of questions. One of the questions was, what's the typical profile of a non-degreed alumni? So someone who's entered the program without having a degree previously. So for that, I would say it's fairly unusual for someone to join the program who doesn't have a degree already, because a degree is one of the entry criteria. However, it's not impossible. So we would say, if you've done exceptionally well in your career and for whatever reason you didn't take a degree initially, so usually that would be through choice, not because you weren't able to, but it would be maybe financially it wasn't possible, or maybe you took an entrepreneurial route, and you since then have been exceptionally successful. Then we would be interested in speaking with you and we can run through that. We would need to be confident that you could handle the academic rigor of the program because it's a postgraduate University of Oxford qualification, but it's definitely worth a conversation. And then the other question I had was, why choose the executive diplomas at Oxford over LBS? So in that question, I would say there's two parts. One would be the University of Oxford versus LBS, and the other one would be why an executive diploma. So I think it's already been spoken about. The executive diplomas are quite unique in terms of their format, in terms of how flexible they are, in terms of their postgraduate level. So they require a different level of commitment to a master's degree. So they are less intense on your time. They're it's more possible to fit them into your routine. So that's on one level. In terms of LBS versus the University of Oxford, both are very different places. So Side Business School is a part of the University of Oxford. What we believe the real strength of that is that it's interdisciplinary. So, so when you're learning about strategy or innovation, you won't just be looking at a business context. So for example, on the strategy and innovation diploma, we have a case study which is delivered by Dame Frances Ashcroft, who is a professor and one of the pioneers of treatments to do with diabetes. And so we feel that we can bring that angle which looks at these problems in a different way, which hopefully will enable you to see broad perspectives that you can take back to your own application. So if you would consider that to be a bit too broad and not really relevant or interesting enough, then maybe a kind of university like Oxford, which is very broad like that, might not be the right fit for you. But if you think that would be very interesting and would add value, then I think that's something that we can offer above a business school which sits alone and doesn't have a university associated with it. That's a very quick answer, but handing back to Sarah.
Okay, thank you very much, Andy. Can I have the next slide, please? Okay, so thank you all for your time. We are now at the end of today's session. I would like to particularly thank the Alumni Panel and my colleagues who joined us today, but most of all, those of you who joined us. We hope that you found this session insightful and that you now have a better understanding of our executive diplomas. If you have any questions, our emails are on the screen. We would be very happy to hear from you. So stay safe and bye for now.